What's happening, guys? Kenny here again, and today I've got another hype versus reality video for you guys. And what I'll be talking about today is this guy. That's right, folks. This is the CKF Terra. So first things first, I want to talk really quickly about CKF, which is Custom Knife Factory, which is out of Russia, and I believe it's Moscow. They are a well-known, kind of a high-end production knife company. They do a lot of like custom work with custom makers. They do a lot of like mid-tech. I guess it would be mostly in that mid-tech range. So yeah, really well known across the world for their manufacturing quality. Just known for having really high manufacturing quality. And this is actually the first CKF I've handled, and I am super impressed. So for those of you guys that haven't watched my hype versus reality videos before, I'll be, first things first, I'll talk about the specs and I'll talk about the knife a little bit and do an overview. Then we'll go into the hype and what I was expecting, what the hype was, whether it be manufacturer, distributor, community hype, whatever that may be. Then I go into the reality, and when I do my reality, I do have a format. It kind of starts with kind of like the unboxing and the overall like fit and finish and the first things you see. Then I'll go into action, and then that'll lead into like performance, which kind of talks about the blade, the ergonomics, and all of that. And then I'll go into the carryability, the pocket clip, which also comes in with ergos and stuff like that. So that's pretty much the methodology here, and then I'll get right into it. So first things first, like I said, CKF Custom Knife Factory is well known around the world. And then the designer of this knife is actually, the guy's name is Snek Tan. Snek? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I didn't butcher his name. But yeah, there's how it's spelled. So Snek Tan. And Snek was well known for this prototype that he introduced in like 2016, I believe is when it came out. And it was this, I think it was called the IFS 20. And it was this knife that did not require any hardware in order to disassemble. And you just like removed some pins and moved a few things around, and the knife would come apart, and you could clean and reassemble. And there were never worrying about like strip screws or hardware that was wearing. So that was his thing. That was his idea. And the two knives or I think there were maybe three prototypes, and those three prototypes were actually purchased within a few days for like, I mean, we're talking like big money, like $8,000 a piece or something like that. It was something absurd. So yeah, his prototypes were well taken by the knife community, and everyone was freaking out a little bit. And I think it got kind of like put to the back burner. I think people kind of forgot about it, because I know that like with the Hinder half track, like it's like supposed to be like this cutting edge technology where, I mean, this guy's been doing this for, 3 years already. So yeah, so Snek Tan was known for that model, and then he did this collaboration with CKF. I believe this came out last year, but I could be wrong. I'm not too familiar with when this actually was released. But and then this came out from CKF, and this price tag, we're looking at about $910, I believe, was the going rate for these. Although they come with a lot of different, just different options. So the one I saw that was $910, I believe, was just a blue anodized titanium inlay here. I've also seen them with zirconium, and then this one is obviously like a, what's it called, a Timascus. So as you guys can see, that is absolutely gorgeous. So I won't get too into that right now. We'll go into that more later. But yeah, so that's the idea, is that he wanted to make a production knife that was more affordable for the normal guy. And so he collaborated with CKF, and that's when the Terra was, came to life. I don't know if he has a custom Terra available, and his custom knives. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the availability of his custom knives in general. So, yeah, that's that. But moving forward, I'll go ahead and go into the specs of this knife, and I'm going to put those on the page right now. I don't want to waste your guys' time spewing off a bunch of specs, so I'll get it out of the way in this fashion. Then I'll bring you right back, and we'll go ahead and do some size comparisons. And we'll just start with the good old Spyderco's, and this will be the Manix 2, giving you a good idea of the size of this knife. If I kind of match up the button, you can see these are actually really close. We're talking within an 1/8 inch, within a 1/16 of an inch, you know, as far as overall length at least. Then we'll go ahead and bring in the Para 3. So you can see that the Terra is a larger knife than the Para 3. If we line up the butts, you're looking at about, you know, an extra inch of knife there. And then next we'll go ahead and bring in some Benchmades. We got the good old full-size Griptilian with that. Those are the Monkey Men aftermarket thumb studs. And then the 940, good old 940, of course with the aluminum scales. I would pretty much say this is a perfect example of what you're getting. You know, handle width, you know, it's a little thicker, handle's thicker on the Terra, so that'll help those guys that feel like the 940 is a little thin in hand. But we'll get more into that when I start talking about the knife. Next, I'll go ahead and bring in the Inkosi. This is the full-size Inkosi, of course. And that's it. Pivot up. And then the Chavez Redención, which is pretty much the same size knife as the Terra. The Inkosi large is definitely a bigger knife. As you guys can see, about a 1/2 inch bigger overall. And then we'll get right into the hype, guys. What was the hype on this knife? To be perfectly honest with you guys, I did not have any hype personally on this before I got it. I didn't know much about it. It was just kind of like one of those things where I had a sub who he just asked me, hey, would you be interested in handling a CKF Terra? And I was like, yeah. I had been really interested in trying a CKF, and then when he said that, I kind of like looked more at the Terra. I had seen these before, but I didn't really look at them that closely because of the price tag. With it being $910, it was definitely out of my range, what I usually spend on knives. And that was, I don't even know what it would be with this option, with the Timascus option. So yeah, it's just definitely out of my range. And also, I mean, I had been really intrigued by CKF, but you know, these are like not as available as some other knives. They kind of come and go. They only do like runs of like, you know, 100 or 200, and then they sell out really quickly. So they're kind of hard to find. It's not like something that's on Blade HQ all the time and you can just pick them up. So for that reason, I didn't really have any hype created, and you don't actually see any of these reviewed online. There's probably like 3 or 4 reviews online about this knife. So yeah, there's not a lot of hype created or surrounding this knife. So I'm kind of excited to give it a review because there's just not a lot out there on it. And in saying that, you guys can see me right there. Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of was excited about giving you guys a review on this. And yeah. So there's not a lot of hype. There's not a lot of stuff in the community about this knife. So the hype portion of this is going to be very short, and I'll go right into the reality when I got this thing, because when I did get it, I was kind of mixed. I was blown away by the just overall look and the beauty of, for instance, this Timascus. I had never really handled Timascus before this, so yeah, guys, wow. Timascus is some freaking beautiful stuff. I was really impressed by the Timascus. And yeah, this is done excellently. I'm actually going to bring in... Woo! There you go, guys. A little plug there for Mighty Hanks. This is actually also a plug for Daddy-O EDC, who gave me this. I just bought a flashlight from his sale, and he threw this in there. And I mean, we're somewhat acquaintances, friends, whatever you want to call it on here, but for him to go above and beyond and send me one of these, I actually have been wanting to try one for a long time. And yeah, I actually really dig it. The size is perfect because I don't want a big ass hanky in my pocket, and this thing folds up so nicely and small, I didn't even notice it in my pocket. So big shout out to Daddy-O EDC. If you guys don't know about Mason, I would definitely go check out his channel. He's got some really great content. And then shout out to Mighty Hanks for making some really good product with that microfiber on the inside. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this Timascus. And of course, I might as well do the blade as well. But yeah, so that Timascus, first things first, I was blown away by that. And just the overall look and design of the knife, it's just like really cool looking and almost like space, like futuristic looking, which really has a cool, just a cool look, really cool aesthetic to it. And I was blown away by that. I was really impressed. And then also I was first curious of like, what the heck is going on? And when he talked about sending me this, I looked it up, and I didn't read as much about Snek Tan as I should have probably, because I didn't realize how just like insane the machining and everything is on this knife and how it all fits together and everything. So super impressed by that, by the fit. And then of course the finish, guys. The finish of the Timascus is pretty amazing. And then the finish of the blade being like perfectly mirrored. Yeah, I was really impressed. Really impressive mirror finish on this. Almost like a stonewash mirror. You can see it started off. It's got a little haze to it, which is good. You don't want it to be super mirrored. Kind of, the Resenti was super mirrored, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely going to show less if it's got some subtle like haze to it. So in saying that, yeah, the fit, other than that, the fit was really good. Like, I got perfect centering. Everything seems to fit together pretty well, although these parts are not like, there's nothing sitting super flush and flat together, so there's nothing to really show where things aren't fitting together well, which is actually a really nice design, because you just don't have to worry about like parts fitting together perfectly. But in saying that, here we do have absolutely no play and a very, very smooth action. This is on ceramic multi-row bearings, so it's very, very smooth, guys. This is actually one of the smoothest knives I've ever handled, as far as just like feeling super hydraulic and very smooth. There's no sound, there's no tactile feel of the bearings rolling or anything like that. The only thing I have that could even compare to this is actually right here. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, if I've shown you on this channel yet. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know I got this guy. This is the Shear Gore F95NL. And I'm super stoked on this, guys. I will be having a video coming shortly on that unboxing. But yeah, so this knife is really great. Actually, I don't know if I released it yet or not, guys, so don't quote me on that. This guy's extremely smooth. Not that like drop shutty that you get with some other knives, but nothing to complain about, guys. Super smooth, and I actually really like this action. And I like drop shutty, drop shut too. It's just different, guys. I don't think that this is bad because it doesn't drop free. This is actually really nice the way this action functions. So really enjoyed the action on this guy, and it grew on me, actually. Really grew on me. But the fit is great. The fit is great. And that kind of went straight into the action there. I'm talking about action now. But yeah, as far as like deployment and stuff, you can use this aperture here. This is going to work for, I'm sure, lightening up the blade, but also it's going to be very functional as not only a finger flick, but also a thumb flick or a thumb roll. One thing I will note is that it's a little tight. You guys can see, for me to get my finger in there, it's almost like it pulls the blade off the detent a little bit. See that? And it still flicks out very easily because of how smooth the action is. But it's not necessarily me going up against the detent, although it does a little bit if I can get my fingernail under and just go straight out. Yeah, very nice in that manner. And then the chamfering on that's done really well. You can see that that's chamfered very nicely. Everything is chamfered very nicely. The spine is chamfered and smoothed out. Inside of the handles are chamfered. I know I'm kind of going back to finish here, but everything's chamfered very well. So no complaints there. In saying that, like I was saying, the action's excellent. And as you guys see, this is a front flipper. And this is a very functional front flipper in every way, shape, or form. You can deploy it in any way that front flippers go. This way is a little hard just because it's kind of a reach around. Sorry. There's not a lot of tabs sticking up. So that's the only way I found that was really hard to do, is doing it like that. That was tough, but I shouldn't say in any way, shape, or form. In most ways, it's really nice to deploy front flipping. And at that same time, you can easily just roll it the way that you can disengage it with great control. It has very good control in disengaging the detent. So very nice. Although the detent is slightly weak, I can definitely shake this out. If you have gravity laws, this is definitely not gonna fly, but most knives won't. I mean, you really want to talk about, pretty much any knife you can gravity flick if you really want to. So, maybe not this guy. Yeah, not that one. But yeah, I could probably do every other knife on this table, so not really a big deal. Detent's pretty dang good. I can't really complain about anything on the detent of this knife. Very well done. Very nice action. Very smooth. Just about as good as you would expect from this knife, to be honest. I wish you guys could see how smooth this is. Detent, here we go. See how that sucks it in? So that's nice. Very good detent. Sorry guys, it's just schmuck on the handle there. Yeah, so I'm really impressed by the fit and finish, by the action, by a lot of things on this knife. This knife has definitely impressed me. Moving forward, I'll go ahead and talk. This was a user for the owner who, I want to say thank you to the owner. He wanted to stay anonymous on this, so I'm not going to mention the owner of this knife. Just not going to shout him out here. But yeah, thank you so much to him for letting me, check this out. This is a very expensive knife, and for those of you guys that are interested, he is selling this knife right now, so $750, guys, which I think is a great deal. I don't know how much this one was new, but that's a great deal. Anyways, I know I got a tangent here, but yeah, moving forward, the action was great. The use, guys. I don't have footage of me cutting with this knife, unfortunately. This is kind of like a mix between a hype versus reality and Apex review sort of thing. I did not cut as much as I normally do with this knife. Most of that was due to this mirror finish on the blade. As you can see, there's like a small scratch. You can see a slight scratch there. Slight scratch on the front. That's not a scratch. Right there. But yeah, this mirror finish is definitely going to scratch easily. And although this was a user for him, users for other people are not necessarily what users are for me. I use my knives very, very much. So I didn't want to like scratch this blade up significantly. I even was more worried about this than the Resenti, believe it or not. Yeah, but it did I mean, it didn't really scratch. The scratches were there when I got it, but yeah, I did use it. I did cut with it and put it to use. And this is M390, guys, just so you know. I didn't stipulate that at the beginning. We do have M390. And CKF seems to be doing a good job with their M390, although we haven't tested any yet. It did feel really good in sharpening, and it seems to be holding an edge extremely well. It is razor sharp right now. Definitely hair shaving, no doubt. I will be just touching this guy up and sending him to the owner. You can't really see that here. Let me see if I can get a better shot. I will be sending this to the owner with a fresh edge. Yeah, there you go. See. I will be sending it with a fresh edge, and I'll be sending it out probably today. But yeah, really, really nice edge. The M390 seems to be done well, and you know, it's hard to say because I didn't put the use on it like I do my other knives. But I'm sure eventually I'll get some CKF M390 that I can really put to the test. But in use, guys, these ergonomics, this knife, as far as ergonomics go, was excellent. The blade geometry doesn't necessarily support, you know, like long-term use, just because we have a very short blade. So we have 0.16 stock thickness, you know, which is kind of standard for this type of knife. Like, it's like, I think this is the same, 0.16 stock thickness. It's kind of like the going like thickness that we're seeing in a lot of these like mid-tech / like high-end production knives, which is fine as long as it's ground very thin. And this one is ground very thin for that kind of thickness and such a short blade. We are looking, I believe that the thickness, see at the widest point here, you're talking about 1 inch, but as we get over here, you're about a 1/2 inch, you know, even less, like 3/8 of an inch at the tip. So there's not a lot of distance to get that grind down thin. So it's kind of like this blade in a sense, where you don't just have a lot of height to get your blade ground thin. So that's why I keep comparing it to this 940. And in saying that, they do get thin with this guy. And he is at 19 thousandths right here to about 18 thousandths here. To about, I think it's like 18 to 19 through here. And then back to like, I think it's 21 right here and like 22 at the very tip. So I'm not going to bring the calipers in on this guy while I'm in the camera because of the mirror finish. I really don't want to damage it. But in saying that, the 940 is right there. You know, I get like, I think my 20 CV 940 at 17 degrees was like 17 thousandths behind the edge. I think this one's right there too, about 17, because I got this blade replaced by Benchmade because the other one was horribly thick. This one's about 17 thousandths though. And I won't bring the calipers in and waste your guys' time right now. But yeah, so it's not amazingly thin, and it didn't slice like it was an amazingly thin blade, even like something like this where you have a lot more blade width to cut to get to that kind of thinness back behind the edge. So in saying that, I did find that this does have some resistance going through like thick cardboard or like, you know, normal cardboard and normal cutting tasks. This thing slices just fine. But if I did have some resistance, I could feel it on this knife for sure. Although the ergonomics, man, whew, they stand behind it because it's nice because of this handle thickness, which I believe is like 0.58, I believe, just over a 1/2 inch, something like that. And you guys saw in the specs. And as far as like hand filling, it fills my hand very nicely. Again, my hand is a 3 3/4 inch wide, 4 inch tall, and 6 1/4 from this point to this point. But with the 4 inch tall palm size length, it fits my hand good. But if you have a broader palm than me, a taller palm than me, this might feel thin in hand. I know some guys have like Ryan at Banner 24/7 has kind of like that the height. This has the height and thickness that I think he would just barely fit his hand. You know, so I think it would fit most people's hand in a hammer grip, but going to be pretty amazing in a saber grip. This jimping's done extremely nicely. It's very smooth. There's actually really not a lot of texture or grip here, but just enough to give you that purchase, which I appreciate. And I think guys like Ryan would appreciate that. Some guys that like aggressive jimping, you're not going to love that. It's not very aggressive. But for me, it's just right for the flipping and for ergonomic, from an ergonomic standpoint. So I really enjoy the ergonomics on this knife, and even choking up onto this ledge here, which is not necessarily, it's not a designated area necessarily, but it actually works very well. And this handle being just pretty much a straight, with a little bit of a cutout here, which is a nice touch for disengaging the lock, but really comfortable. And I didn't notice any hot spots in use. Although, like I said, I did not do like extensive long-term cutting. I can usually tell within the first 10 minutes if something's gonna, start to bug me or not. And, I did that amount of cutting at least, so I felt it out. And I don't feel like there'd be any ergonomic issues necessarily. The pocket clip disappears pretty well, and there's nothing really sticking up or weird. Yeah, I really enjoy the ergonomics and blade profile, geometry. Not necessarily, I like the profile, I like the look of the blade, I like that almost like a Warren Cliff sheep's foot modification type of thing going on, and I really enjoy the profile. Geometry is not amazing. I kind of wish it was a little broader, but then it would hurt the width of the knife. So I get why he did what he did. I understand. Not necessarily my style, but I do love the 940. So I think this knife would grow on me, and I'm pretty sure this would become something I'd carry constantly if it was mine. But really nice, guys. And as far as the carry goes, as far as carrying this guy, it carries really nicely. And the pocket clip's very functional. You got a nice amount of ramp up front. You got a pretty good ramp coming out. Pretty good retention, as you guys can see. Done very well. And it does move just a little bit with that one, because it does have that just like a slot for it to sit in and one pin, which I'm going to get into. But you guys can see it slightly moves, but not a lot. Really well done as far as that goes. And very strong clip, not going anywhere. So yeah, and as far as the weight, the spec says 3.8, I believe. Or 3.9, this is 3.87. So that's, right where it wants to be. At 3.9, it's actually a little lighter than what they say in spec. Excuse me, guys. And then, so yeah, really enjoyed carrying this guy. And you can see he's very slim. Closed position, very slim. Very comparable to the 940. Very comparable. Actually, even a little slimmer, maybe. But yeah, it's just a joy to carry, guys. Really nice. And fairly deep as well, even though there's a good bit sticking up there. Not as deep as, obviously, this deep carry 940. But with the average 940 clip, you'd probably get about the same amount. Maybe a little bit more with this point, but nothing super objectionable sticking out. And no way of, cutting yourself. He does a nice job of kind of protecting it with this backspacer. You cannot cut yourself with that. So that's a nice touch. But moving forward into kind of the conclusion, guys, I got to get into this because this is the whole thing about this knife. This is what really, really, makes this thing different. And this is where, something like the full track, they make it seem like it's such a cutting edge thing. This was done years ago, guys. Now, if you guys notice this, there are no Torx screw, there's nothing there. You don't see any screw holes, anything like that. And the reason for that is this, guys. See this pin? If I squeeze this bar, see that pin just dropped out? Pocket clip comes off. this bar, this backspacer comes up. Take that out. Use this to go ahead and unscrew the pivot. Bear with me, guys. This is the first time I'm taking this thing fully apart. Alright, and there we go. Our knife is apart. That's it, guys. You can clean, you can disassemble, you can take care of whatever you need to. You guys see the multi-row ceramic bearing here. Beautifully encased. And that's it, guys. I mean, that's how easy this knife is to take apart. And I'm not going to go into the full thing and take every piece off and everything, but you can take all these pieces off. It does have, you can see the detent there. Detent there. It has like a secondary detent. This knife is just amazingly designed, guys. And to be able to come apart like that in the field, know anything, is really impressive. And I really think that's just a super impressive touch there. I just really enjoyed this knife in that way. And as a kind of a, I would consider myself somewhat of an engineer. I did not go to school for engineering, so I know a lot of guys will be like, you're not an engineer. But I have an engineering mind, okay, guys? And in saying that, I was so impressed by the way that this knife was manufactured. By the way it was manufactured, by the way it was designed. Really impressive. And I've just really enjoyed that aspect of this knife. So hats off to Snek Tan for his design here. It's really beautiful design. Really beautiful just manufacturing by CKF. Just really impressed by the whole thing. And I'm so glad, and I'm big shout out and thank you to my sub who let me borrow this. Just really impressed by the whole thing. And thank you guys so much. Anyone who's lent me knives, I really appreciate you guys. It's a lot, especially with a knife like this. It's a very expensive knife. And yeah, just really impressed by the generosity of this community in general. So yeah, I mean, that's really it, guys. I know I could talk all day about this knife just because of it's just an amazing knife. The way that he manufactured it, the way it's put together. I mean, the way he designed it, the way it was manufactured by CKF. This has definitely opened my eyes a lot more to CKF. And I definitely have my eyes on some of their designs already. And this is just going to solidify that, that intrigue there. No lock rock, nothing like that. Back to being super smooth and super tight lockup. So in every way. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Thanks a lot to my sub. Thanks to Snek Tan for creating such a cool knife, and CKF for producing it, for actually executing it the way that Snek seemed to have wanted it to be produced. So excellent. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you have a great day.